Shabbat Shalom. It's a nice intimate group this evening. At least at 7 o'clock, right? We are going to begin on page 128 with Ma Yafe Hayom. Ma Yafe Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafe Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. We turn back to page 120 for the lighting of the Shabbat candles. Julie, would you like to light candles? You can say no. No, okay, I'll do it. Why it's blurry, I'm not sure. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who rules the universe, instilling in us a sense of holiness, instilling in us the holiness of mitzvot by commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. And together we say, Amen. We read together on 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We continue on 128 with Hine Matov. Hine Matov u'manai shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manai shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. We continue together on the top of 132. Sing to Adonai a new song. Sing to Adonai all the earth. Sing to Adonai, bless God's name. Proclaim God's victory day after day. Tell of God's glory among the nations, God's wondrous deeds among all peoples, for Adonai is great and much acclaimed. God is held in awe by all divine beings. All the gods of the people are mere idols, but Adonai made the heavens. Glory and majesty are before God. Strength and splendor are in God's temple. Let the heavens rejoice and all the earth exalt. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the fields and everything in them exalt. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy, for at the presence of Adonai, for God is coming. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its peoples in faithfulness. We continue on 138 and 139 with Lecha Dodi as we welcome the Sabbath bride. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmianu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shemo tiferet beli tila. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lehu v'nelcha. Ki mekor havracha. Merosh mikadem nesucha. Sof maaseh b'mashavat tehila. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, kiva ore, kumi uri, shir daberi, kavod Adonai, alaik nigla, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. We rise and face the entrance as we welcome the Sabbath bride, verse 9. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha utzochola, tochem uneam segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. We continue together with Sadi Katamar in the middle of 140. Sadi Katamar Yibra Ke'eres Balvanon Yizker Shetuli Bebeit Adonai, Bechatzrot Eloheinu, Yafrichu, Od Yanubun Beseva, Dishenim Bera'ananim, Yihu Lehagi. Ki Yashar Adonai, Tsuri, Velo Avlatabo. Continue with Shalom Aleichem on 142 as we celebrate the Shabbat angels. Shalom Aleichem, Malechei Hasharet, Malechei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malechei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boechem l'shalom, Malechei Hashalom, Malechei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malechei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malechei hashalom, Malechei elyon. Mi melech, Malechei hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malechei hashalom, Malechei elyon. Mi melech, Malechei hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel, born out of our longing for the living God. It has been to Israel throughout our wanderings a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast, it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace. Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people. Its God is the God of all people. As it has been said, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here, and here find life. We continue together with the Chatzi Kaddish on 144. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. Becha yechonu v'yomechon u'b'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'gala ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'meru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam U'Me'omaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei D'Kudusha B'richu Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Tamiran be'alma v'meru amen. Rise and body your spirit for the Baruch. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yalla la la la, 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 yalla la la la. Yalla la la la, yalla la la la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yalla la la la, 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 yalla la la la. Continue in prayer together on the top of 149. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Middle of 151, we continue together. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, ochev amo Yisrael. Continue on the following page with Shema, the watchword of our faith. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We continue on the following page as Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beinenecha, uchtavtam amzuzo beitecha, uvishavecha. Leman tizkeru, vasitem ekol mitzvotai, vitem kirushim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Echem me'eretz Mitzrayim, Lihiot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem Emet. The top of 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. We continue with our song of redemption, Mi Chamocha, on 158. Yai lai lai yai lai lai la 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 lai yai lai 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 ya la 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 lai yai lai lai yai lai lai la 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 lai yai lai 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 ya la 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 lai Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha neda b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. Malchutecha ra'u v'anecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze Elianu ve'amru, ze Elianu ve'amru. Adonai yimoch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimoch le'olam va'ed. We turn from our song of redemption, of crossing the sea, to Hashkivenu, our song, our prayer for safety in the night. The words are on the screen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 And from safety and security in the night to Vishamru on 162, which is all about the joy and celebration of Shabbat. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beni uvein bnei Yisrael, oti leolam. Veshamru bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim vet haaretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. We turn to page 164 as we rise in body or spirit for the Amidah. And right as before we start, I'm going to invite everyone to just take a big, deep breath in and out. It's been a very long week. And I think we could all do with more deep breathing in our lives. We continue together on 164. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot U'Mei Gula Lifnei V'Neihem L'Ma'an Shemo B'Ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magid Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav laHoshia, Morid hatal. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim berofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar. Micha mocha bal gevurot, umido melech, melech meimid, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lechayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated. We continue together in prayer on the top of 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. The middle of 175, we pray together. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha v'yirah na'avod. The middle of 177. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha olcha na'eh lahodot. We continue with our prayer for peace, Shalom Rav, on 178. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Betov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Hambarech et amo Yisrael. Bashalom. Take a moment for silent prayer, pages 180 and 181. Ose shalom bimroma, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru amen. Yase shalom, Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We turn to page 371, 371, as our thoughts turn to those in our community, in our family, in our hearts, in our world, who are in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. If there's someone you're thinking of and you'd like to share their name, please feel free to put it in the chat or to say it out loud.
My mom, Betty Schimmel, and Uncle Eric Carmen.
Al, Dennis, Nancy, Margot, Rena, Magnus, Layson family, Iser Lee Ben Chava Rivka, and Ilana Bat Avraham Basara. We add to those all those suffering from COVID-19 and all those suffering from the attack in Afghanistan. And to those names, we also add Bob, Noah, Frank's family, Treva, Dawn's family, Mimi, May, Dale, Tracy, Frankie, Mark, Nancy, and Kay. We hold all those named and unnamed in our hearts and in our prayers as we turn to the middle of 371. Vishaberach Avotenu Mekor habracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor habracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. A few weeks ago, in a TBI Green Team meeting, if you didn't know, we have a green team if you're interested. We'd love to have you join us. We had a discussion about honey and about bees, specifically how we use honey to symbolize a sweet new year and how we understand that bees are dying at incredibly high rates around the world. We also discussed how honey is mentioned in Torah in the recurrent phrases land of milk and honey, or the land is flowing with milk and honey. The reduction of worldwide of bees and possible extinction of close to a quarter of the species of bees was then brought up as part of the conversation. It turns out that most people, including myself, do not know that there are so many kinds of bees, so many species, and that honeybees are only one of those species. The example used that I really liked in a short video by a researcher is the comparison if you talk about birds and everyone thinks you're only speaking of chickens. The amount of honeybee colonies has actually grown over the past decades, while the prevalence of wild bees, who often only pollinate one kind of plant, take an apple tree as an example, is dropping drastically. And farmers around the world are already seeing this impact. Less pollinators means less food being harvested. So what can we do? We can buy local and encourage local farmers to invest in wild bees. We too can invest in wild bees by building houses for them and inviting them to pollinate our gardens too. For without the pollinators of all kinds, entire ecosystems are at risk. This also does not mean that you have to stop buying honey, but rather to know where your honey is coming from. The investment in honeybees, but not in wild bees, has caused a misbalance in our ecosystems. But of course, what does this have to do with this week's Torah portion? Well, this week's Parsha is one of the ones that mentions honey. And while we know that honey from honeybees has been around for millennia, the honey mentioned in Torah is actually date honey. Dates are native to the land of Israel. But why mention milk and honey? The Eitz Chaim Torah commentary mentions that this is a recurrent symbol of the land's fertility. Ancient Egyptian sources testify to the richness of the land. The combination of milk and honey implies that the land supports both agriculture, honey from dates, and pasturage, milk from goats. The phrase is never included in the divine promises to the patriarchs, for whom famine was frequently a grim reality. Their faith did not need to be reinforced by stressing the attractiveness of the land. Such an enticement would carry weight for the demoralized, enslaved masses of Israelites. Milk in the Bible is generally from the goat, the little man's cow. A plentiful supply presupposes an abundance of goats, which in turn points to ample pasturage and the prospect of plentiful meat, hide, and wool. Honey in the Bible is predominantly the thick, sweet syrup produced from dates. The combination of milk and honey provides a highly nutritious diet. Some Arab tribes are known to subsist for months at a time solely on milk products and honey. This understanding of the importance of the land's fertility should not be undersold. This is exactly the issue we are having around the world, a reduction in our crops, even as we plant more and more. We need to change our mindset about our planet if we wish to continue having fresh fruit and vegetables, if we want to continue living off the land. While the modern commentary discusses the idea of overall land fertility, the rabbis of the Talmud believe that the land literally flowed with milk and honey. In Ketubot 111b, we read, Rabbi Ben Ezekiel once paid a visit to Bnei Brak, where he saw goats grazing under fig trees while honey was flowing from the figs and milk ran from them, and these mingled with each other. This is indeed, he remarked, a land flowing with milk and honey. Personally, I'd be pretty amazed to see this occurring. Rav Jacob Ben Dosi related, from Lod to Ono is a distance of about 3 miles. Once I rose up early in the morning and waded all that way up to my ankles in honey of the figs. While Reish Lakish says, I myself saw the flow of the milk and honey of Sepphoris and extended over an area of 16 by 16 miles. Right, we also have to one-up each other on what we've experienced. Rabbi Bar Hana said, I saw the flow of the milk and honey in all the land of Israel. But while the rabbis of the Talmud understood the phrase literally rather than figuratively, other commentators see it as symbolic. For example, Rabbi Hoffman, David Spee Hoffman, Germany, wrote, this expression seemingly is an accepted expression to designate a good land where there is found everything in great abundance, similar to the expression, each person under his own vine and each person under his own fig tree, that symbolizes richness and peace. The role of milk and honey may have shifted over time, but a desire for sweet things has not. As we approach Rosh Hashanah in just over a week's time, let us consider where we get our sweetness from. If honey, let's support our local farmers and encourage sustainable farming of all kinds. And if you're looking for a substitute, perhaps consider maple syrup, another local sweetener. And let us all consider building wild bee homes in our backyards to encourage our local pollinators to return year after year. Shabbat Shalom. We continue together on page 586. I'll ask you to rise in body or spirit. Bottom of 586, top of 588. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latei gdula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kue haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo samchalkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. Ve'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu noteh shamayim ve'yoser haaretz u'moshev yekaro b'shamayim ima'al u'shchinatu zo begold hemeromim hu Eloheinu enod emet malkeinu efes ulato ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. The top of 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, love to each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'namar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushamo Echad. You may be seated. $597. Remember our people who suffered and died so that we could be free and secure. May their memory be more than a distant shadow. For their dreams left unfulfilled and lives taken too soon, we remember. Remember our brothers and sisters whose sacrifice kept the dream of democracy and justice alive. May their courage be our inspiration and strength. For life cut short and vision unrealized, we remember. Remember the fallen of our armed services, the victims of terror and tragedy. May the darkness of their loss not obscure the light of peace. They were in love with our land and in love with life. The agony, the tears, the mothers and the fathers, for the children who were and for the children yet to be, we remember. We especially remember the yard sites of Eva Andersky, Barbara Artson, Michael K. Bach, Rosalie Berman, Lillian Bernard, Rose Helen Blank, H. Gordon Pfeffer, Dr. Michael M. Frank, Ruth Galperin, Rachel Galperin, Sadie Golden, Linda Paul Haft, Ethel Heller Hyman, William C. Heller Jr., Nathan Kaplan, Evelyn Lawrence, Tilly Madison, Lucille McDonald, Pauline Orwin, Louis Pollins, Frida Reinheimer, Anna Rittman, Julius Schwan, Beshi Schwidke, Herb Schwidke, Alan Serlin, Max Shapiro, Louis Skolnick, Lois Shamaski, Jean Hannah Glasser, and Morris Weintraub. We add to those names William C. Heller, Aunt Anne, and Carla. Are there other names or corrections?
Francis Burr.
We had those killed in Kabul. We turn to page 598 and rise in body or spirit for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yoma divrach hirte v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael. Bagala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam ulome almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha reichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru. Amen. Say Shalom B'mromav, Huya say Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. A few announcements. Tomorrow morning services are at 10 a.m. in person and on Zoom. Link went out in today's email, followed by our text study at 11:30. We're continuing with our study of Psalm 27, the psalm of this season. The newsletter will be coming out September 1st. Well, I should back up. Hold on. See that tomorrow night at 8 o'clock in person and on YouTube. We're having our Slichot service starting with Havdallah. Keith will be joining me on piano and singing. I say this because I know some people will come because he's singing. I know my audience, everybody. We hope some of you will join us in person or on YouTube for Slichot. It's a short service, a meditative service to put us in the right mindset for the high holidays as we start turning inwards and thinking about what we should change in order to do better in the new year. Which is why I bring up the newsletter coming out on the 1st. We're also hoping for all of our members to tell us what their plans are about the holidays, either to call or email with which services you're interested in attending in person, or if you're planning on just attending everything online, that would also be helpful to know. Our hope is to get back to everyone with the plans of which services they can attend in person on September 1st. Next week, services on Friday are at 7 in person on YouTube and Saturday morning, 10 a.m. And in just over a week, Monday the 6th is Rosh Hashanah services. We're having children's services at 3 o'clock outside, and Arab services are at 7:30 p.m. And for the rest of the schedule, please look at the newsletter, the website, or the letter that you were sent. We look forward to celebrating with everyone in whatever way people are comfortable. And then also coming up, we will be having Tashlich along with COM in the religious school on September 12th at 12:30 at Woods Park. All are invited, along with a number of other exciting Sukkot activities that are all going to be announced in the newsletter and in the weekly emails. So if you have questions about what's coming up, absolutely. And if you emailed your preferences to us, we will email you back. And if you called us, we will call you back. That's the plan, to make sure that everyone hears from us. And if you don't hear from us, please let us know. We're hoping to move our emails over to a system where everyone gets all of our emails very soon. But that's an excellent question. Thank you. So we're hoping to get it back to everybody on the 1st with finalized details. But we'd like more RSVPs for people who haven't sent them in yet. Though I'm pretty certain I'm talking, to the choir of the people who've sent things in. But with that, a very long spiel of announcements. We are going to turn to 625 for Adonai. Adonai, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Lev Nasa, V'Hefsako, Azai Melech Shemo Nigra Adonai, Ve'acharei Gitlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora Adonai, V'hu Haya, V'hu Hoveh, V'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam, Asher Malach. b'terem kol. Yitzir nivrach leid nasa behefsakol. Azai melech shemo nikra Adon olam. V'hu echad v'yein sheni. Laham shelo lehachvira Adon olam. Bali reshit, bali tachlit. Below house v'ham Yisra Adon olam, Adon olam, Asher malach b'terem kol. Yitzir nivrach leik nasa behefsakol. Azai melech shemo nikra Adon olam. V'hu eli v'chai goeli. B'tzur chavli b'yitzara Adon olam. V'hu nisi umanosli. Manakosi b'yom ekra Adon olam, Adon olam, Asher malach b'terem kol. Yitzir nivrach leid nasa behefsakol. Azai melech shemo nikra Adon olam. V'yado afkid ruchi. V'etishan v'ya'ira Adon olam. V'im ruchi gaviyati. Adonai li v'lo ira Adon olam, Adon olam, Asher malach b'terem kol. Yitzir nivrach leid nasa behefsakol. Azai melech shemo nikra Adon olam. And from Psalm 27, one thing I ask of Adonai, only that do I seek, to live in the house of Adonai all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of Adonai, and to frequent God's temple. In Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.